Hey everybody, Tyler Cruz here, also known as Always Dizzy. I am back with my round 3 report from the 2025 BC versus Washington match. If you haven't watched the first 2 videos in the series, you probably should. It doesn't really make sense to start on video 3. So as a recap, I won my first round against I think she was 8 years old, opponent. And then I was paired up against a national master in round 2 and I got destroyed. This was round 3, which was it was still on the second day. And I was paired up against Jackson Rish-Brown, who was a 12-year-old from Washington. And his twin brother was also playing in the event. I don't think I have more to say about that. So for those of you who watch my streams on YouTube, I started playing the bird about... I can't quite remember exactly, but I think it was close to 2 months ago. Seems about right. It might not have even been a full 2 months. Anyways, some people asked me like, oh, would you play this over the board though? And well, I did. So I played F4 for the first time in my life over the board, at least in over the board tournament. And yeah, I just wanted to get it out there. Just wanted to play it. So I'm not scared to play the bird, as you can see. Just wanted to mix it up. In round 1, I was white and I played E4. I don't know exactly why I played F4. I just thought, now's the time. Eventually, you should try it out over the board. Yeah, what's crazy is that like a year ago, I never ever would have believed that I would play F4, because a year ago I wasn't even considering the bird. Like I've really changed how I play. Like my style has changed, and my playing what is objectively best, that whole mantra has changed. So I just would not have ever thought I would play F4 in a tournament. Never would have believed it in a million years. So anyways, here we have it. The bird in a serious classical over the board tournament. My opponent played D5. Played knight F3. Knight F6. This is a very common way people approach the bird. E3. And G6. So this was actually very annoying because honestly, like on my computer, after I play a game, I usually keep the tabs open until I have time to analyze fully the opening. And I also have a few other like notes and things on my to-do list of what to study for the opening. And right before I left for the tournament, to travel to the tournament, as I was closing down my computer, one of those things on my to-do list was this position. And I just didn't have time to look at it because I had so many other things that I had to look at. So of course, the first time I played the bird over the board, I get this. And if I had only spent 15 minutes or whatever to look at this position, I would have been better prepared. So that was annoying. But I played B3. Jackson played bishop G7, played bishop B2. And then here, he played a very interesting move, which was a little disturbing because he played, like I have the score sheet in front of me here. And he played very quickly, actually. Yeah, like I'll tell you right now, move 25, he only spent 5 minutes by move 25. Yeah, he spent and the time control was 90 plus 30. So he played very quickly, and bishop f5 is an unusual move. So I was concerned that he either knew this or he prepared against me. Yeah, because he played it quickly, and it's an unusual move. So he played bishop f5. So it's an interesting move, and it's actually tied amongst the top engine moves. So I reported him to the TD for cheating. No, so I do wonder if he prepared it or if this is just part of his like pet line. It's also not in Raven's course, and I asked Jackson about it after the game when we kind of did a post game analysis. By the way, I did this with most of my opponents. I think there was just one opponent I didn't do a post-game analysis with, but I did one with the board. Everybody else we just did from memory, which is kind of cool. As you get stronger, you're able to do that a little bit more, and I find it kind of cool just to recite different key moments in the game just from memory verbally. Getting off track here, what was I going to say? Yeah, so I asked him about this bishop f5 move. I asked him kind of like, did you know about this move? Did you play it before? Do you know about, and he kind of gave like a little bit of a smirk and a coy answer. So I'm not 100% sure what the truth is on that. But he kind of suggested that he was familiar with it. Now, was it prepared? I don't know. Now I know that a general idea in the bird when the bishop is on f5 is to essentially just kick it out. And you can do that with an eventual e4 or g4. So like for example, like knight c3, d3, e4 is a standard plan, as is knight e5 and g4. But I was a little bit nervous about playing knight c3 with this idea of playing e4. I was a bit nervous of knight c3, knight e4, queen e2, knight takes c3, bishop takes c3, bishop takes c3, d takes c3. I didn't really like this so much. The engine says it would have been fine for me, but I also didn't want to trade so much material off. I forgot to mention, my opponent is rated 1033. But I can tell you right now, he's not 1033. He's much stronger than 1033, as with all kids. This was also his equivalent CFC rating, because all my opponents are from the US. So his CFC rating isn't established. It's provisional. And can I switch windows without this breaking? I can tell you how he did in rounds 1 and 2 before this game. Switching windows here. Okay, so in round 1, he drew a 1575, but that 1575 actually ended up drawing a master this tournament, and he used to be like 1900 or something. And then in round 2, my opponent drew a 1739, and that 1739 used to be 2100. So he's obviously strong, and he's obviously stronger than 1033. Okay, let me get back to my window here. Yeah, so I knight c3 I didn't really love so much. And so I ended up playing bishop d3, which is kind of weird, but the bird is weird. The bird is generally weird. And I know that in a lot of lines, you do put the bishop on d3, but probably not when there's a fianchetto on the king side, because it makes less sense to do that. The computer still prefers just other moves, like to get an eventual e4 or g4 in. So after bishop d3, my opponent took, I recaptured, he played c5, which makes perfect sense. He had a really good handling on how to approach the bird, because I don't have bishop b5 anymore. he played c5. I played knight c3. And he played knight c6. And yeah, my opponent played pretty much close to perfect so far, according to the engine. And he still had 90 minutes on the clock. So this was a bit disturbing. He was whipping out his moves and he got a good position. And I was starting to regret playing the bird. So with knight c6, this caused me a lot of grief, as knight b4 is the obvious threat, hitting d3, which is a very weak point in my on my side of the board. Yeah, so what do you do here? So I played a move I didn't want to play at all. I played a3. I played a3 here. I did not want to allow knight b4. The thing is, if the knight had gone to b4, I could have just played d4, the computer says, and I would have been totally fine. I don't know why. I mean, I guess I didn't like the idea of the knight even just going to d3. But apparently I would have been okay. I guess maybe just queen c2. Oh no, sorry, I have to move the king. But yeah, I didn't like that. I'm a little surprised the computer just is okay with allowing knight b4. But the actual best move here was knight a4. So knight a4, and then if knight b4, I think probably just still d4. Let me put on the engine, because I don't quite remember my analysis on this. So knight a4, and then if knight b4, sorry, we're hitting c5 and we're defending, and then if b6, I think we can just counterattack, just play a3 and hit his knight, and so we won a pawn there. But even other moves instead of knight a4. Actually, no, knight a4 is the only decent move. Yeah, otherwise my a3 was okay, but we could ignore it apparently. Castles, and then if knight b4, then we're actually okay after d4. And if knight d3, then queen b1, or we could take on c5 or queen c2. And after the knight takes here, the computer says that it actually wants to take on c4, c5 next. And the computer says we're fine, but it's kind of unusual. I don't blame myself for not wanting to allow that. Okay, engine is off. So I played a3, and here my opponent played a5, which was unnecessarily committal. It's not a move I would play. I mean, it weakens b5. I wish I could do arrows without having to hit the keyboard. Yeah, it weakens b5, and again, it's just unnecessarily committal. Like black could be playing any more natural moves here, like castling or whatever. But yeah, yeah. So after a5, I castled, but the best move is actually knight a4, and then if b6, d4, and this is supposed to be equal. But the bird is so weird. I mean, it's hard to play perfect in the bird. So I castled, and Jackson castled as well. Now, we both just kept missing the computer's idea of fighting for the d4 square. So the following line shows one idea why it's an important square. So if instead black played d4, and I play knight b5, and then he castles, and if I take on d4, which is not the best move, but after c takes d4 and I recapture, there's queen b6 along this this pin, king h1, and then knight d5, and black is much better here, or winning even. Maybe not winning, but black is better. Probably winning. So so we just kept missing this idea of d4. So both of us should have been fighting for d4 apparently. But he castled, and I played knight e5. Computer says that knight a4 was slightly better, but I'm not a computer. So knight e5, he took, and I mean he basically. Okay, sorry. So he took an e5. I recaptured, obviously. And then when I was looking at this line, I thought he couldn't play knight d7 because I'll just take, excuse me, on d5. So I thought knight e8 was forced. And then I forget what I was going to do. I forget what I was planning here. It might have been, I think I was maybe knight b5 and then a4. That might have been my plan. Or maybe knight d2. I forget exactly what I was planning. But I thought he couldn't go here. And so as soon as he played it, I thought he just blundered the d5 pawn somehow. But I didn't realize that he would be attacking e5 twice because of his bishop is now unleashed. So, yeah, I just didn't see that. So I played d4, the only way to deal with protecting e5, right? Because we have to protect it with a pawn. And he took, I recaptured, and he played e6. So here I played queen g4. So the computer says that this was an inaccuracy due to what my opponent ends up playing. But my idea, just like round one, if you remember, I forget if it was queen g5 or queen g4 I played in round one, but I was just probing for weaknesses and trying to be a little bit aggressive. It worked in the first round, so I decided to, and it's kind of a risk-free move, except for what I missed. And my opponent played queen b6. I totally missed this move. It's a double attack on b3 and actually e5. That's why it's kind of easy to miss, because he can now threaten to take on e5 because of the pin on along the g1 a7 diagonal. So yeah, it's just one of those moves that's easy to miss because you don't think that e5 is vulnerable, but it will be after queen b6. So yeah. Now, fortunately, not that I deserve it, but I had a resource available after queen b6. I never should have allowed queen b6 in the first place, though. So I could have played king h1 or anything. Yeah, so I should have seen this. But I did have a resource of knight takes d5. I can do the same thing to my opponent because his e6 pawn is pinned. So this was the only move saving me here. He took on b3. And I played the only move that isn't losing, which is knight e7. And then he played king h8, obviously. And here my heart sank because I realized after a few moments, how is my knight coming home? It's not. My bishop is under attack. My knight is under attack. I can't save both. And this was not a nice feeling to have because I felt like I rushed the past few moves, like queen g4, allowing queen b6, knight e7. But the thing is, I didn't have better than knight e7. Yeah, this suddenly felt really bad here. Fortunately, and again, undeservedly, probably undeservingly, right? Undeservingly, I had a resource again, unplanned for. This is where, like, I consider luck. There is some luck in chess. Like, I was lucky to have these resources. It was not planned. I did find the only saving resource, which was bishop c3. So you'll see, if you don't see it already, the idea is after rook a e8, attacking my knight, I take on a5, and then after rook takes e7, I had bishop b4, which is what I played. I was so lucky to have these two resources. I mean, from here to save a pawn, I take on d5, then knight e7, and then bishop c3 with bishop before. It looks like I was smart and I planned this all, but I didn't. My opponent played rook e8. I took on f8. He recaptured with the rook, and I played rook fb1, and he played queen d5. So in some ways, I don't really want to share this because it kind of ruins the battle, or the sense of battle, but I'll share it if you're curious. So the computer says that black is winning here. The eval is -2, but I don't think it's that simple. The computer says -2, but I don't think it's, the reality is a different case. At the time, I remember feeling that I thought this was pretty balanced, roughly. I thought there was play for both sides. And I thought that I might even be a little bit better here. If you gave me a side to choose, I might have chosen white. Because black's pieces are not well placed, right? The bishop is staring into a pawn. The knight can't go anywhere. The rook is defending. The only good piece for black right now is the queen. So it's kind of interesting that this is -2. Whoops. I played a4. And my opponent played rook c8. Here, I felt that bishop h6 was better, putting white under a lot of pressure, because there's ideas of obviously taking on d2 or giving a check on e3 if I push the pawn, and it also has an x-ray on c1. I don't know. I thought this might have caused me some more grief. I would have had to spend a lot of time thinking about it. But yeah, he played rook c8. I played rook b5. By the way, one of my nightmares is spending all the time making these videos and then like something happening and it's not recording properly. So I'm often looking down here to just make sure it's recording. So I played rook b5. He played queen c6. And I played rook ab1. So this was an inaccuracy, because this allows b6. And I knew that, but I couldn't think of anything better. Here the computer wants to trade queens with queen f3, queen takes gf, b6, a5, b takes a5, and then rook a takes a5. That's what the computer recommends, and it and then I think black is a little bit better here, but that's not what I did. Yeah, sorry. So where am I here? Yeah, I played rook a b1. He played rook c7. Yeah, I was a little surprised to see that. I thought he was going to play b6. I played a5. He played queen c2. And I played queen f4. I just want to see how much time I had at this point. So here I was down to 46 minutes, and Jackson had 75 minutes. So he had an hour and 15 minutes. And then here Jackson played queen d3. So queen d3 is actually a blunder. And after the game, he was not happy that he played that. Like he wasn't like super upset, but he was not happy he played queen d3. It's a blunder because black needed to prevent me from taking on b7, because this allows me to keep my a pawn. So we both don't know why he played queen d3. Maybe he wanted rook c7 or rook c2 rather. That might have been his idea, but yeah, unfortunately for him, it lets me take on b7. So he traded, I recaptured, then he played knight f8 because I was attacking f7 here. So whoops. So knight f8. Note that I can't go queen takes f7, which is very natural. because then he can just take on d4 check, and that's just equal. I think that's a perpetual. And if it's not a perpetual, it's enough for black to be equal. So I took with the rook. Now I'm threatening to take on f8, which is a mate in 2 threat. He played king g8, preventing that. I played rook b7. He played king h8, played h3, because now I am threatening queen f7, because if check, I can hide on h2. He played queen c4. Excuse me, queen c4. I went to h2, queen d5, queen f7. And then here he went. I saw this, by the way, even I think, I forget if I saw it here or the next move, but after queen f7, he had bishop takes e5 check. The point being, if I take, it's a perpetual, right? Because he recaptures, I can't hide. So yeah, before I played queen f7, I prepared for that. And I actually have 2 different ways to defend, but I played the best move, which was king h1. And yeah, I was happy I saw this a couple of moves ago, because otherwise that would have been stressful. But actually, d takes e5 is also winning, but it takes longer, because there's a lot of checks you have to avoid. You got to do all this dance and stuff. It's a much longer. So yeah, just king h1, and then there's no stopping. Like I'm going to take on f8, and if he moves the knight, I'm gonna mate on h8. And if he defends the knight, then I just take the bishop, right? So, yeah, after king h1, my opponent resigned. So I won my 3rd round. I was obviously very happy to win this game. It's always good to win a tournament game. It doesn't matter who your opponent is. It's always a nice feeling. It was a rocky start though to this game, and I am the first one to admit that I got lucky to having 2 different resources in the game. When I had the knight takes, where was it? I had this knight takes d5, and then I had bishop c3. I had this second resource, but the opening was rough, right? After bishop f5 and this playing a3. I mean, I wasn't losing here, but this was a rocky start. This was kind of an uphill battle here. I was playing from behind at this point. But yeah, that was my debut of the bird, and I won. So I have 100% win rate with the bird so far. It's kind of cool to play the bird over the board in a classical time control and win. Yeah, so after this round, my score was 2 out of 3. Stay tuned for round 4. Yeah, thanks for watching. See you next time.